Right, guys, I'm back in the room. I'm with my director, Steve Brett. We wrapped a week ago on Abe. As you can tell, I'm getting back to my normal self. Still a bit thin in the face. But Steve leaves today, goes back to England. He flew all the way out to shoot this film with me. So I'm just going to hand it over to Steve. Steve gives a little bit of a background of how you got into directing and what you're currently working on.
So my background is university, then runner, then third AD, then first AD, stint in the camera department. Wrote and directed my first short film maybe 15 years ago, which kind of put me in good stead to get in the door. First professional job was courtesy of Hollyoaks, which is where I met Steve.
Yep.
Currently doing the rounds on BBC dramas, continuing dramas, and then Steve got in touch with this at first just as a kind of general notes, what did I think, and then it kind of grew into something, and then when he decided that he could starve himself for another 3 months more than he had planned, and I was available, I said I'd come out and do it.
Awesome. And first AD stands for assistant director, right?
That is true, yes.
Just for people who are not in the business or want to get into the business. Yeah, and how do you think it went? It was a 3-day shoot. It was pretty intense. Obviously, you hadn't seen me since we worked together on Hollyoaks, which was back in 2010. Obviously, we've kept in touch and stuff.
Yeah, the last time I saw Steve, he was like a tank, and then the next time I saw him, he was like Tom Hanks in Castaway, like when he's on the island, not before he's on the island. Yeah, so it was quite a shocking transformation. Almost as shocking as the transformation since we wrapped, and he's managed to put a stone on in about 3 days.
It's insane. It's been a week, and I've put on 14 pounds since we wrapped, and it's just basically because my body was so undernourished. And again, I've been into the fitness business since I was 13 years old, so don't try this at home, guys. It's not big and it's not clever. I have nutritionists and doctors on hand, and also everything I did, as difficult as it was manipulated. It was quite dangerous near the end, but there's a saying, a man can do anything, as long as it's not forever. But I did have a team behind me to look after me and make sure that, that everything was right. And then as soon as I wrapped, I could start getting back to normal. As you can see, my arms are starting to... I just got straight back in the gym, guys. My arms are starting to grow again. It was nice to have my hair cut and all of that stuff. But yeah, 14 pounds, and I need to put on another 40 to get back to where I was. So I'll be documenting that as well, so you guys can see that. But in terms of Abe, how do you think the shoot went for our a first attempt?
Well, I mean, I think for me, really more than anything, it was I've never shot in the States before. I have no idea really how an American crew works, what the etiquette is, what the normal day-to-day running is. So for me coming out, there was a not to say nervous, but I was obviously a little bit sort of concerned about how the way I like to work would, sort of translate across to how they like to work. And I know the unions out in the States are a lot more of a presence than they are necessarily in the UK. So you always, even though you're doing an independent or a short film or whatever, I think you still have to respect, the rules that are put in place by the unions for good reasons. So I think the biggest challenge was obviously 3 days, all locations, none of it studio. Some days there was 3 moves. It was all just about getting the timing down, getting everybody, on course. I mean, the biggest problem that we had is that we didn't really go into this with a first assistant director. A kid called Eddie stepped up on the day, but really that person who we just, for whatever reason, we weren't able to get, people were either too busy or we just didn't have the resources to find one, is the person that's kind of pushing the accelerator pedal. I'm probably doing the steering, but it's the first assistant that's got his foot on the gas. So we didn't have that, or her gas, sorry. But we didn't have that, so there was kind of an added pressure of just keeping an eye on time, just making sure that everybody was, up to date with what was happening at every second of every day. One of the days we had to, unfortunately, just given the availability of location and the schedule, we had to break, the 11-hour consecutive rule, which, is fine as long as you ask people. But it's not good practice. I think 3 days was enough given those sort of hours, because we did, a lot of really early starts or a really lot of late finishes. Which is kind of tendency for more like commercials, which is just a straight out buyout, but they pay you handsomely to keep quiet. So yeah, I think that was it. And then also just, there was a lot of people who were involved who, this was their first time being on a professional set, which, again, is quite a daunting thing for them and for me. I have to remember that they're new to this, but they also had to remember that I wasn't new to this. So there was a bit of to and from. But on the whole, it was a really, really good experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat. The best thing about doing an indie or a short is that you were kind of your own boss. Steve had a vision. Steve, entrusted me with that vision. Hopefully I've given him everything he wants, but it was just refreshing to think that, if I wanted to do something, then I had absolute artistical control to do that. I wasn't governed by, a pre or post watershed limited.
Yeah, because what people don't what you guys might not understand back at home is when you work on shows that have so many restrictions because of like the scheduling. You gotta, on the BBC with Hollyoaks, it's before the watershed, so you have a lot of people to answer to, and a lot of things get taken out because it's inappropriate, which is fair enough, and you have a lot of bosses to answer to. But when you're creating your own art, it's up to you. You don't have to answer to 10, 20 executive producers. That's the beauty of creating your own work. You can do it and create it in your own eyes, your own vision, your own way. I mean, money restricts you a lot. If we had unlimited amounts of money, that makes a huge, big difference. But yeah, so you guys have followed me from this journey. I came off social media for a while because I really had to get my head down and focus on the character. And you'll see when the film is available to the public, you'll see exactly why I did that. So the film's in the can now, guys. We've shot it. We've got all the footage that we needed. So what we're going to talk about now is, Steve, so what happens next? What do we do next?
Well, logistically next, I'm going to fly back to the UK. I've got an editor there who I like to use all the time, so I'll pass the rushes off to him.
And what are rushes, just for people?
Rushes are the raw files, like every single take that we did. And the other thing is, because we didn't have what's called a script supervisor, who's normally the person who's looking at the script to make sure that we don't deviate too far off the script, and also but keeps an eye on the continuity of what's going on in the scenes, and also marks up the scenes that I prefer and the ones that I don't like. The reason we do that is just so then the editor doesn't waste time printing the stuff that I don't like. Unfortunately, in this case, we didn't have one, so the editor's going to have a busy old time of just trawling through every single clip and digitizing it and putting it into his computer and his system for his edit. Which means there'll be a lot of work that we'll just sort of troll through, but I don't mind that. I think it's a nice opportunity to look at everything and see if we can't squeeze a little bit of something out of everything we shot. You never know, there's always hidden gems in there. So then we'll stitch the story together. We'll make the story. I mean, it's the best part is the edit, is because you can change. You can play. You do have time restrictions. You don't want to work somebody too long, but you don't have the urgency of 30 people all standing around being paid and nothing happening. It's just you and one other person. And then we'll get it to a point that we like it, and I guess we'll look at the running time. We want to aim for somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes. If it's any more than that, it kind of limits you into which festivals you can get it.
Right.
Although Oscar-worthy shorts are 20 minutes plus, but there's a lot of places that don't accept that. So in an ideal world, we'll get it down to 15 minutes or under. And then we'll hand it back to the US, where it'll get taken on by our music composer, which he'll then put the music on. And then if there's any other small tweaks, I guess they'll get done over here. And then it'll be good to go.
So yes, so post production is. Would you say it's the most important part of the actual making of the film, or?
No, they're all as important as each other.
Right.
I mean, you can't build a house without foundations. And then once you have built your house, it's no point in having a house if you haven't got lots of rooms inside.
Right.
So they're all, all you can't have one without the other. You can't have the shoot without the script. You can't have the edit without the shoot. You can't have the film without the edit.
Yeah.
So each one is just as important as each other, really.
Cool.
The thing is, really, all major decisions should be made in the script before you even start shooting.
Yeah.
And then small changes can be made on the day on the floor if it's not working, and in the edit they can be tweaked.
Yeah.
The reality is that and it's all the same percentage of decisions, really.
Yeah.
You're changing things right up till you go to the shoot. You're changing things massively on the shoot.
Yeah.
And then you'll get in the edit and you'll change it even further.
Yeah.
I think when you make something, you probably end up making about 4 different films, really. In your head, you have the film that you think it's going to be. You have the film that is on the page. You have the film that you actually make. You have the film that you could have made, and you have the film that could be made about the film.
Yeah. It's just, well, this is the film that's been made about the film. So, right, final few things. So, for people out there, if they're really stuck in a rut and this is something that they really want to do, they're in the same position as what I was. They want to make their first feature film or short film or whatever it is. What top 3 tips could you give them? Like, what should they have in place? The top 3 most important to give them the best shot at making a good shot.
Well, once upon a time, it used to be. I think it used to be equipment, and it used to be facilities, and it used to be, locations or whatever. But actually, I think, honestly, get a good story.
Good story.
Get that's the solid. That's it. Because then, really, after that, it doesn't really matter if you shoot it on an iPhone or you shoot it on a $100,000 Alexa. If the story's good, people are going to watch it.
There you go. So number 1, get a good story. Make sure your script is solid. Don't rush it. Take your time.
Where you can, and it's not always easy because obviously, people have to work. But where you can, get great actors. Don't try not to just use your friends because they're a bit funny when they've had a drink or two. When you think they might be good on camera, try and get actual actors who are used to, working with cameras and working with lines. And understanding words and why they're saying it. So I'd go script, actors. I mean, like I say, you can shoot on pretty much anything now, and there's so many available cheap alternatives to professional cameras that are used on a professional level. 5Ds, iPhones. I mean, somebody made a feature on an iPhone. But it's the sound. It's the sound quality that's gonna screw you up. Because your phone is full HD, but the recording, the actual sound, the microphone in your camera phone isn't any good. So if you are going to take that route, then get a good system to record your sound on, because it'll make the world of difference.
Cool. So,
and don't be too ambitious.
Yeah.
You should be ambitious, but don't be too ambitious. Don't write opening shot planet Earth. That it's
keep it simple.
Yeah. And for your first one, I mean, I'd say, keep your locations down to a minimum. If you can shoot it just in a living room, if you can find an interesting story that just takes place in a living room with 2 people, then do it, because you can just use your own living room with 2 actors, and you can just use that till the cows come home. You don't have to pay permits. You don't have to pay anybody. Your time is pretty much as it is. Keep it simple. Try minimum locations. I mean, what Steve did was he managed to pull off,
which was luck, by the way. I was very fortunate, you know.
Well, luck or determination or
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it. I mean, really, we had, maybe 10 different locations, but we only had really three actors.
yeah,
It was essentially, three main actors. So, and three actors, professional actors, not
yeah,
friends or, I mean, I can't stress enough, get actors.
yeah.
Don't use your mates, get actors.
So it was one, have a good story. If you have a great story, you're already winning. For instance, about the locations that Steve said, we watched an Oscar-winning film last night called The Room, and it literally is for the first 60, 70 minutes of the film. It's just one room. Brie Larson won the Oscar for Best Actress for the movie, and it was absolutely incredible. So if your story connects in any kind of emotional way to humanity, if you're telling a story about humanity, you're already winning. So number one, the story. Number two, get good actors if you can. I've had the good fortune of being in the industry for over 10 years now as a professional, and I've had the good fortune of working with great directors like Steve and great actors. So for me to approach actors already, they're like, oh well, he's a professional and da da da. So they're gonna take the time to look at my stuff. But still, these guys who you're gonna see in this movie would not have done this unless they thought the script was solid. Because they're artists, you know. If the script was not for them, they wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have even, because it's their artistic integrity. So if you've got a great story, you've got more of a great chance at getting good actors. So make sure you're on point with that. And sound. Number three was sound. Great sound quality. Because that's what will make your film. It just elevates it. No one wants to go and watch a film where the sound's off. So there's the top three tips. And finally, Stevie, knowing what you know now, you've been a director for how long? You've been in the game?
15 years.
15 years. So there's 15 years experience, and they say that it takes 10,000 hours of focused practice to become a master of your profession. It's around about 10 years. So you've got an additional 5 years on top of that. So experts, and it's in a book called Bounce, written by Matthew Syed. If you wanna read up on it, lots of scientific research backing this up. They say that it's a 10,000 hour rule to become a master of your art, your profession. So knowing what you know now, as in fact, 2 seconds. For any of you who are interested, there's a book right there, Matthew Syed's Bounce, The Myth of Talent and the Power of Practice. So, Steve, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self who wanted to get into the business either as an actor or a filmmaker? What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
What advice would I give? That's really hard. I think just try and soak up as much as you can. Try and understand everybody's job. Try and understand why you like the TV that you like, or the movies that you like, or the music that you like, and just I guess be true to yourself. Don't just do something because you think it's the right thing to, well, no, that's not wrong, actually. I'm talking on my ass. I think just work hard, and you know what? Be nice to people on the way up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to meet them on the way down, and it can be a really, really cutthroat business. It's an elitist business. It really is, and I don't say that lightly. I'm extremely privileged to be where I am. Regardless of that, I've got still so much more scale and growth that I can, possibly achieve. And also it's really easy to become flippant about it once you're in. You get given the keys to the kingdom. Don't piss on the flowers.
Yeah. And just as a general rule, be nice anyway. Don't just be nice because you'll get something from it. Just be a nice human being and good things will happen for you. I'm telling you. And again, being happy, it's a science. Like training your mind to become intelligent by reading and training your body to become fit. It's the same thing with happiness. It's something that can be worked at. It's a muscle like any other. And again, there's scientific proof backing that up. People aren't just happy because they're happy. It's something that can be worked at and should be worked at every single day. So do things for others, because I'm telling you, the more you do for others, the more you'll get back threefold.
I think it's really important as a director to not worry about how other people direct.
Yeah.
I think there's those directors who are super intelligent technically. They can build special lenses to get the shots, and they understand lens sizes and what the camera can do and the lighting. And there's action directors that understand wire work and explosions and pyrotechnics. There's horror directors that understand monster models and blood and special effects, and CGI directors, and there's art house directors that really understand actors. And I don't think there's any wrong or right way of directing. It's like being an artist. You can be somebody who uses charcoal, or you can be somebody who uses oil paints, or somebody who uses watercolors, or somebody that uses a computer.
Yeah.
None of them are wrong. It's just a different type of way of doing it.
Yeah.
So don't, if you're not completely technically minded, but as long as you know what you want, that's the main thing. Because as long as you know what you want, you can tell people. And that's the beauty of a director. You can decide to surround yourself with a bunch of people who know how to do that, or you can become completely solo, and if you know how to do it, you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
There's no shame in either or, personally. I don't think it hurts to know as much as you could possibly know about technical things. I don't think it's necessarily a case of jack of all trades, master of none. I think you can always learn massively. I started off, I was very, very, very technically minded, and actually in the last probably 5 years, I've just kind of thrown that out the window, and I'm a lot more conditioned to talking to the actors now and finding out what it is that the scene is about, rather than how I'm going to shoot it. Because in my mind, because I've sort of not mastered that, but because I understand technically what a camera can do and what a lens could necessarily mean, that stuff kind of comes second nature now. Whereas the new stuff that I'm trying to strive forward for is, the artist, the actor. The other stuff, the technical stuff, is a secondary thought now. Once upon a time, it was all about putting people in boxes, and now I tend not to do that. That's just me personally, though. So.
No, I think that's a great thing, because people, when you get too technical, guys, when it comes to art, and again, this is personal preference, the work can tend to become a bit stale, a bit robotic, and acting's about emotions, it's about listening, it's about reacting, and making art is about just feeling it. So I found, working with more experienced directors and more experienced actors, that you kind of you just riff off each other when you're on set. You'll have an idea, but you're not stuck by, this is how I'm going to do this is how I'm going to say this. And you'll come up with some beautiful organic work on the day, which just comes from real emotion and real experience, and not being afraid. You get a certain amount of confidence once you've had the opportunities to work a lot. So you have the confidence just to riff, and you're just not afraid to make mistakes or look foolish, because a lot of inexperienced directors and actors, when they first start out, they're like, I have to do it like this, and they play it safe. But some of my best work, and I'm thinking a lot of other experienced actors will agree with me, have come from just going completely in the other direction and finding happy accidents. Happy accidents on the day, and all of a sudden they end up in the final cut of the film, which is amazing. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, because there's no such thing as a mistake, you know what I mean? you'll get 3 or 4 shots at a take. So why do them all the same? Do 3 or 4 different, just approach them in a different way. Test it out, give your director, give the editor a lot of variation, a lot of choice. You know, it makes their job a lot more interesting and a lot easier instead of doing 4 exactly the same takes. I'm going to say it like this, this, and this. So yeah, this was a bit of a longer one, but we only have Steve for this one, so I wanted to make sure that we got as much info across to you guys as possible. So what happens next with Abe? Obviously, Steve explained post-production and stuff. We are intending to enter the 2017 film festivals, because by the time our film is ready to go, we'll have missed all the deadlines for 2016, which means that you guys won't get the opportunity to see it until 2017, pretty much because you're not allowed to have a premiere of a film until it's been shown at the festivals. So that is the plan so far. We shot a lot of backstage footage, so there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes videos, but again, a lot of them can't be released until 2017. But any questions you've got, please just message, comment below, and I'll get straight back to you. If you've got any questions for Steve's not on Facebook, but I can relay the questions back to him and answer on his behalf. And I'll just like to finish it with this. It's something that Pablo Picasso said, and it's a great quote for anyone. Because I came across a couple of people who are in the industry, but they don't watch films and TV, and that's crazy. You should be watching as much as you can to learn as much as you can, because there's people who have been doing this a lot longer than I have that I can learn from, and I can fast track my learning curve 10 years. So don't be so naive into thinking that you can learn everything and do everything yourself. Nobody who is successful in any walk of life has ever done that. They all have mentors, they're all curious, and they're all constantly learning, keeping their feet on the ground, constantly learning and striving to better themselves. And Picasso, what he said was, good artists copy, great artists steal. And that's something that one of many things that I stand by. If you got any, do you want to finish it with anything, Steve? I saw you sit up and...
No, not at all. I think, like you say, I mean, you can never underestimate how much you can learn. It's like, you know, cliches are cliches for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
It's because they're a cliche. They just, you know, that's what they are. And I don't think necessarily cliches are bad things either. So, you know, it's like anything. It's like fashion. It's like music. Cinema repeats itself. TV repeats itself. It's just a slightly different version of something that maybe happened 20 years ago. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Not at all. Well, just read a Shakespeare play hundreds of years ago, and then watch a couple of movies now. All the themes: love, revenge, sex, jealousy. It's human nature. It runs throughout the course of history. You can go back thousands of years, read some Chaucer, you know, Old English work. It's the same human things, just repeated over here, and it's just evolved in terms of what's going on with technology and stuff nowadays. So be curious, never ever stop learning, because as soon as you stop being curious and you stop being learning, that's when you stop growing. When you stop growing, that's it. You've leveled out. That you're never gonna get past the level that you're at. So it doesn't matter where you are, in what profession, what walk of life, always be curious and never stop learning. Keep picking up those books. Good artists copy, great artists steal. Catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot, Stevie.
No problem.
Safe flight home, brother.